I think I only allowed myself to feel my frustration and anger that John died much, much later. I couldn't afford to feel anything. I could see how feeling things was affecting Roger. When Roger and I first sat down in LA, we didn't know whether to go down to Las Vegas, for example. You know, the body was being investigated by the police, so we didn't know quite what to do. He was shaking. He couldn't even hold a cup of tea. And I just thought, you know, I've got to keep myself composed. And the way that I did that was I cut myself off from my feelings. John is one of my oldest friends. You know, he and I met at grammar school in the first year. So I just turned 12. And he'd always been a really good pal to me. He'd seen me through some personal stuff at school. But when my playing was difficult to, you know, he was always very positive about my musicianship, you know, and where others might have doubted it, he was always very positive. And so I knew that if I let myself go into an emotional place with him, it wouldn't work for me.
When you was in New York on the tour, you wrote a song about John, Old Red Wine. Did you deliberately set out to write a song, or was it just something that came?
It happened on the stage, didn't it? I was knocking about something and came up, it just entered my head. We were telling stories, I think, about how I think Bobby Pridden and Bobby worked, who was a Who's sound man for a long time, used to work in Bob's studio and then spent a lot of time in his house. But also we used to occasionally, when I drank, a long time ago, I hadn't had a drink for 22 years at that level. So we'd go out to drink with John, and he would insist on buying these unbelievably expensive bottles of claret. And, you know, and sometimes they were awful. So we'd drink them and we'd go, how much was this again? I can remember me and my friend Barney drinking one. He'd go, $2,000. And we kind of go, bloody horrible. Could we have a bottle of Mateus Rosé, please? Or, you know, can I have a lager? You know, kind of that thing. And he would soldier through, you know, and he'd be drinking mud half the time. But it was, you know, he claimed to be a connoisseur. I don't know whether he was really at all. I think he just liked this thing of being able to order these incredibly expensive bottles of wine. And it suddenly entered my head that that's what John was like when he died. He was this wonderful, mature, elegant casing, but was a bit muddy inside. He had a heart problem, you know, and he wasn't quite right. But it was a secret until you opened the bottle. And in Las Vegas, somebody opened the bottle. Somehow the bottle got opened, and we found that he wasn't really ready to go, and that was where it came from.
It appears to me that The Who have a more symbiotic relationship with their fans than a lot of other bands. If The Who are playing well, the fans are up for it, and vice versa. It seems to me if the fans are...
Well, they must have been up a lot lately because we've been playing well. I can remember the bad days when, we would have difficult periods when the band would be under par for whatever reason, and I used to find that very hard and irritating, as they know, and as I'm sure you know. You feel that you can't develop, you can't go through your own development and your own neuroses because you're living, you know, in a bubble under a microscope. But on the other hand, the benefits of it, you know, are when you have trouble, as I've had recently in my life, you know, when people swing right behind you unconditionally, that's when it really, really counts. I felt good about the fact that most Who fans believed in me, and I think also recently getting back to John's death and the tour and the way we responded. There were a lot of people that were suspending judgment until we went on stage, and some of them even had to suspend judgment beyond our first show at Hollywood Bowl because they went and cried all the way through it. You know, they would look at Pino and kind of go, "Oh, John's not there," and so. But a few shows down the line, we got their support. So it has its ups and downs. You know, it's not always good to have fans that are that caught up in you, but every band has it, I'm sure they do. You know, I'm sure every band has their... If the difference for The Who maybe is that we've never had that purely kind of teeny bopper female following. And, you know, I know I'm very chauvinistic about this, sexist about it in a sense, but, you know, when you see the way that young girls operate as fans. You know, they will move from band to band and artifact to artifact and until they find a man and grow up and have a family and start listening to Frank Sinatra or whatever it is that they do. But our fan base has always been predominantly male, but the 20% women that are fans are all completely and utterly mad. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable, you know, I'm mad and I'm crazy and I'm obsessive and compulsive, and I love the fact that the people out there seem to be, they're like me, and they like me and I like them. But that liking, that also allows some movement. You know, sometimes they send me letters which are absolutely awful, you know, and I kind of go, well, I have to let them have their say, you know. And sometimes I sit on the stage and tell them what I think, so it goes both ways.